Okay, so it's that time again. It is Manga Haul time. And actually, while I only bought like 25 volumes this month, there are a couple in here that I have been looking forward to reading. So up front, we'll talk about, go through the series that I always pick up, the pre-orders and all that. You can go to the timestamps down below and hop around to whatever title you want to hear me talk about. Because, sometimes, hey, you're like, listen, you talk about some of these titles every other month because you pick up the volumes that go, you're right. I understand it. And I respect it. I respect your time. So, yeah, just hop around. But, yeah, let's do the pre-orders. The Apothecary Diaries. Volume 8. I really love the atmosphere of this manga, and it's like living in that kingdom, and the characters and the art's pretty good. I am 4 volumes behind, so you're right. I need to get back to reading it. Okay, I understand, but it is such a slice of lifey fun series that I really enjoy. Next up, Kaiju number 8, volume 7. Another series, listen, that I pick up, but I'm so far behind, but you have heard everybody talks about this series. It is such a fun Shonen Jump series that I know people that are super into it. They got an anime coming out, so that's pretty exciting. It is definitely up there on my list of things that I need to read, but listen, I got a lot. You know what I'm saying? I don't read everything right when I get it. Most of the time I try to, though. My Girlfriend's Child, Volume 2. This is a boy, this series. If you've seen my other manga hauls, when I picked up the first volume, I think the story that they're trying to tell could be super interesting, super heavy, but it might have a nuance to it. And I don't know where they're going with this story, but it's one of those that it is kind of so unique to manga. I am pretty sure if you know something like this, let me know in the comments down below. It seems like a very unique story that they're trying to tackle, and I just really want, 1, to support it, and 2, to see how they handle it. Because a story like this, if you don't know, it's about this couple making a decision about their child. It's very adult themed, very adult themed, and kind of really how that decisions affect multiple people, not just this couple, and how people come to terms with other people's decisions and their own decisions. Story about coming to terms with your decisions, honestly. So yeah, I am definitely going to read this as soon as I get some time. Flowers, Volume 3. I love Shaman King. If you've been around this channel, you should know I love Shaman King. And this is kind of the sequel to Shaman King that I have never read before. I had read a little bit of Shaman King growing up before I got the omnibuses, and I haven't been able to jump into this story yet, but it's just one of those that it would have to be on fire for me not to at least find something to like about it, because I am such a big fan of what Shaman King does and the type and the style of Shonen Jump story that Shaman King is. So that's why I just keep picking up these volumes, because I know there's going to be one day that I'm just going to binge read this series, and hopefully I enjoy it. I actually don't hear that many people talk about it, so it could be hot trash. I don't know. Could be. It's a possibility. I hope not. Please don't be trash. Come on. DanDaDan Volume 4. It's a weird story, DanDaDan. I have read the first 2 volumes, not read the third, and I've not read this 4th volume. But it's odd, man. I didn't fall head over heels for it. Like, I've seen a lot of people, like, in the community fall head over heels for DanDaDan, because it is going to be polarizing, because it is so odd. It's so strange. It's so its own thing, and like kind of quirky, I guess you could say, maybe, in its own way. And I think there's going to be people that absolutely hate it, and there's going to be people that absolutely love it. I somehow fall kind of right in the middle. I like bits and pieces of it, but I can also see that if it goes full force into the weird and strange and that type of humor, it might not be a manga for me. And that is why I think this 4th volume, I'm going to read up to this before I decide purchasing the 5th volume of DanDaDan, which is a story about like aliens and ghosts and them trying to hunt. You know what? I think everyone should pick up that 1st volume and make it for yourself. You'll know, kind of, by the end of that 1st volume, what you're getting into. Because it would take me probably 30 minutes to try to piece together the type of thing that DanDaDan's trying to be. It's kind of like Rick and Morty with aliens and ghosts. Actually, it didn't take me 30 minutes. It's very similar to that, with like a little bit of Shaman King and some shonen jumpification of it. There you go. Didn't take me 30 minutes. Tista, Volume 2. This is from the creator of Spy Family. It also says, come to find out, the final volume on the back of it. I think this series got canceled. I am actually not sure if this is the series that came before Spy X Family. I really like Spy X Family. I still haven't read that 1st volume. Now, not a big commitment. 2 volumes, huh? I wonder if it got canceled. I wonder if it's actual just 2-volume series, or there's going to be some cliffhangers at the end, and I'm going to be super bummed out. One Piece, Volume 1 and 3. Listen, I've done videos on the stuff in this volume. It's One Piece, okay? Listen, I don't need to say anything more than that. MoMo the Blood Taker, Volume 5. This is a series. I hear what you're saying. Hey, man, I've been watching your channel since the beginning. You don't like vampires. Yeah, I thought that too. But here we are, Call of the Night and MoMo the Blood Taker. You're right. This came out of nowhere for me. I love the noir aesthetic that the art has. I really just enjoy like the gothicness of it, and set against the backdrop of this kind of detective New York-y style. There is something about it that is right up my alley, when I thought it would absolutely not be up my alley. Fun surprise for me. Plus, just look at that cover. All the covers are so good. Can't Stop Cursing You, Volume 4. This is very much like Death Note. I have talked about this series on the channel before. The 4th volume finally came out. It feels like forever. And I believe this is the final volume. I don't know if the story got canceled or if it actually finished. I actually kind of really need to reread volumes 1 through 3 before I do this, so I might binge read this entire series. But yeah, it's a 4-volume series. It's not exactly like Death Note, obviously, but it's got a Death Note vibe to it that really comes through. Again, I don't hear a lot of people talk about it, and I don't really want to spoil a lot of things, but if you like Death Note, you should pick up that 1st volume and see if you like the kind of story that it's trying to tell. Noragami Stray God. So this omnibus collects volumes 16, 17, and 18. I am actually 2 omnibus behind on Noragami. I really enjoyed Noragami. I had heard of this name before. I never collected the singles. Maybe the singles were kind of hard to collect at a certain point. I'm sure it's got reprinted now. But when the omnibus format came, I took the plunge. And yeah, if you've heard about Noragami, it's as good as people say it is. Attack on Titan Omnibus Volumes 31 and 32. Here's the thing. I know. I need to read Attack on Titan. You're right. I have read the second omnibus, Omnibus 1 and Omnibus 2. I believe there's one more omnibus that comes out, and that is the final omnibus of Attack on Titan. You're right. Everyone knows about Attack on Titan. I don't need to talk about it, but you're right. I need to read it. And apparently, I just decided to pot commit because I kept buying them as they were coming out, so we're in it now. I'm going to own all of Attack on Titan. Hopefully, I like it. My Dress Up Darling, Volume 9. Okay, listen, I know, we all know about My Dress Up Darling. Of course, I'm going to keep picking up volumes. You know what I'm saying? It's a slice of life comedy series about a couple that are very opposite, but they're attracted to each other. You know what this is. If you haven't read the manga, though, at least check out the anime. That first season was really good. And then for the final pre-order of this month, Coffee Moon, Volume 3. I love Coffee Moon. I believe if you go back to the Manga Haul that I picked up the first volume, I go into really what the story is, and I'll just do that. Again, not about this volume because I don't want to spoil anything, but it is about a girl that keeps reliving the same day over and over and over and over again. The Groundhog's Day of it all, if you've seen those types of movies, little things start changing, and she kind of has to figure out what's changing, why is she doing it, why is it happening, why can't other people remember that they're living the same day. You understand that kind of story, but it is done so well, and the art is fantastic. I highly recommend it. It's got 3 volumes out right now physically. Coffee Moon, dude. Coffee Moon. Excellent series. Excellent series. So those are the pre-orders, and now the 4 series that I have picked up throughout this month for my manga haul. I've read all these. I haven't read the entire series of all these. Well, that's going to spoil something. So let's just get into it. Boys Abyss Volume 2. Technically, this is kind of a pre-order too. I read the first volume. This is incredible. This story is incredible. It is one of those very dark. It's shrink wrapped. You hear that? Not for kids. Boy, it's not for kids. No, sir. No. Telling such what could be a very touchy story. I think it's handled very respectable and really well done. And the art is really incredible. And I probably won't be able to show any panels because, it's shrink wrapped. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, if you're of age, I'm not going to tell you, if you feel like you can handle a story of deep, dark depression, check out the first volume. Super good. Super good. The summer Hikaru died. I've already read this story. The art is so good. And especially because I came into this knowing nothing about it. I know some people in the community were flipping out. They were super excited about it. I didn't know too much about going into the story. And the story is basically about this guy's friend is not his friend. An entity has taken over his friend. Obviously, he knows this, and it's kind of him. This is what I think this story is about, right? I've thought about this. It really does look like this story is setting up how people deal with the passing of a loved one and kind of letting that go. And if you had the ability, even though you know it's not them, could you let them go? Is that they put almost a Junji Ito Uzumaki type twist to the whole thing. I'm not going to spoil anything other than that, but there is twists involved, which actually is incorporated in the artwork. The artwork is striking, man, because a story that could absolutely be kind of it has slice of life elements, but it also has horror elements, and it blends it together so well. So I am kind of really excited to see where this story goes. It is a very good first volume in the sense of setting up the characters, the premise, and the story they're trying to tell. I think that this is one of those series that can only get better if they nail what they're trying to tell and the story beats. I think this could be really, really good. Also, this cover. Am I right? I'm right. Look at that. That blue. I love that blue. I love that blue. Offshore Lightning. So what this manga is actually a collection of what I believe to be short stories from a very specific author. Most of these short stories are from 1992. I think there's one from 2012 and one from 2015. And the artwork shows it's from 1992. Listen, you know what I mean? Of course. I don't know if I can recommend it because I think the problem that runs into with short story collections, right? Some of them are really good and others you're like, not for me. Because it is so strange. There is a story about a father and a son that is incredible. It is so good. And I think short story writing is so hard to do. because you have to complete this story and at least have like a kind of like a 3-act structure type of deal in like 40 pages. And to pull that off, you have to be an incredible writer. I think short story is one of the hardest forms of writing that you can do to convey a story in such a short amount of time. And there's one about father and son and coming to terms towards the end of his father's life. And there's a mother and daughter one that's really good. And a lot of the short stories, and it looks like this author really liked to talk about kind of the acceptance of loved ones passing, which is weird because, you know, we just got done. It's been a lot of this month of reading this very theme. I don't know, you know, you just got to be ready for that. But I think she tells the story and has analogies to things and uses that to convey this message that she's seen throughout her career, at least in short story form. I haven't looked her up and see what other things she has written, but that was her main theme throughout all of these stories. And while I think some knocked it out of the park, some were a little slow to me. Again, you might read it and get something different out of it, you know, but I'm just saying for me, I think there's like 10 of them. I would say 4 are really good. Like 2 or 3 are okay, and I think 2 or 3 are just actively didn't connect with me. But I wanted to pick this up because I really like to show support, and I want to see more of these kind of collections of older authors that maybe didn't have like a massive hit in the manga industry, and getting these authors' works collected in this physical manga form, I think could bring a resurgence to some stories that maybe didn't get a lot of love back in the day, especially now that manga has gotten so popular in not just Japan. And it's very popular, you know, in America, everywhere around the world, worldwide. And the idea that a publisher is willing to put together this collection, I wanted to support. And I do hope that they do that for a lot of other authors going forward. So while I don't know if I can recommend it, you know what I mean? I am really glad that I picked it up, and I'm really glad that I read it, because it, for better and for worse, it was such an interesting read. And for the last manga that I picked up, I got a story with it. I'll Give It My All Tomorrow, Volume 1. Here's what happened, right? Boogie Snacks, a manga YouTuber that, you know, very much more popular than me, you probably know who he is, did a short and talked about this, and he pitched it in a way that immediately drew me in the sense of it's a much older protagonist. He's like in his 40s, and he decides to become a manga author. And he is kind of like working at this fast food, living with his parents, got a teenage daughter. And I was so drawn to that idea of an older protagonist and a story kind of not as good. I don't know. I'll get to it, but it's kind of like Bakuban. But if the main character was lazy, just real lazy, and that story of, you know, because I read the first volume, and I was so intrigued by it. Guess what I did? You probably already can know. Here we go. Yeah, I picked up the rest of it. It's a 5-volume series. Of course I did. You're right. Of course I pot committed. You know me so well. But the reason I did is, while I don't think that first volume is like perfect, right? I think the premise is so worth seeing how this journey ends for this character, because everyone has kind of given up on him except for his daughter, I would say. And in a way, his father has not given up on him, but their relationship can be funny, can be sad, can be dramatic. They have a very complex relationship. And the way that it is written, at least, maybe this says something about me, but they're relatable characters. You're like, oh, I kind of know people that talk like that, and people that have relationships like that with their daughters or with their father, because he is the type of guy the main character is kind of relatable to, in the sense of he really never found out who he was. And the idea that, especially in this form, because I really haven't seen a main character like this before. If you know of any more, please comments down below. Like, I love these types of characters where they're 40 years old, and, you know, a lot, especially in the popular manga and things like that, you know, an old person is like 25. So to see this 40-year-old and to create this story where he wants to achieve something, he wants to find his purpose that he's never been able to find, but he's built up kind of like these bad habits in a way, and he's like kind of lazy, but has this drive to be something more. And like one of the interactions that he has, he's playing this video game, like trying to show his daughter, like, I'm so good at it. And his father's like, hey man, are you not gonna, like, you're not drawing your manga anymore? Because throughout his life, he would pick up something and then, oh, I'm gonna go do something else. I never follow through with it. And to watch him come to the realization of the choices that he's made in his life that has led him to this exact moment, and the things that has to change for him to achieve what his newfound dream is now, which is become a manga author, is such a compelling story, at least in my opinion. But yeah, the art is nothing to write home about at all. But I think what I came to this manga for was the story. And while, like I said, that first volume is nothing, like I wasn't tripping over myself, the characters were so strong, and the ideas and the type of story it wants to tell, I haven't read in manga form before. So yeah, I pot committed. Of course I did. Why wouldn't I? But yeah, I'll give it my all tomorrow. Such a good title. That is such a good title, honestly. You're like, yeah, it's one of those things. I've done it before, man. You're like, yeah, I'll get to it. Like tomorrow. I'll get to it like tomorrow. Today, no, I'm busy. Listen, I gotta watch all of Hunter x Hunter. Okay, I'm busy today. Can't make it. Gotta catch up on One Piece. What are you talking about? So yeah, that is my manga haul for this month. Let me know what you picked up this month. Let me know if you've read any of these and what you think about it. Let's talk in the comments down below. And as always, I appreciate you guys wholeheartedly that made it to the end of this video. It means the world to me. And I hope if you're having a bad day, it gets better. If you're having a good day, it becomes fantastic. I'll see you next time.